Now we have here an exercise in which they ask us to find the solution for x. Now, in this particular case, if you look at this exercise, the idea of solving for x is always isolating x, leaving x alone, and finding the value of x. And after you make it equal 0. Um, but different kinds of equations. This one, for example, is a quadratic equation, and I know this because if you multiply 3x by x, that gives you your degree, which is 3x to the second. Now, in this case, if you look at the expression on the left-hand side of the equal sign, it's already factorized. So one of the principles of quadratic equations is you factorize, you make it equal 0, and then you find the solution based on every single factor. So we're going to call this factor number 1, and we're going to call this a factor number 2. Okay. Since this is already factorized, we don't have to basically factorize the expression on the left-hand side of the equal sign. So 50% of the job is done. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically take factor number 1, make it equal 0, and then on the other side, factor number 2, which is this one right here, make it equal 0, and then find the two possible values of x. Notice that you have two possible values of x in this case. Okay, why? Because if this expression is equal to 0 on the left-hand side of the equal sign, and you have two parts that are multiplying each other, in order for this to be equal 0, any of the two could be equal 0. Okay, so that's the principle we're going to use. So with the factor number 1, which is 3x plus 2, we're going to make it equal 0. That factor alone. And then we're going to isolate x. So to isolate x, we need to eliminate the number 2. The number 2 is adding 3x. So we're going to subtract that on the left-hand side of the equal sign, and we're going to subtract that on the right-hand side of the equal sign. This basically eliminates the 2 here, and you're left with a 3x on the left-hand side of the equal sign. You rewrite the equal sign again. 0 minus 2 is equal to -2. Okay. Now x still not alone because the 3 is multiplying x. So how do I leave x alone? By using the inverse operation that you have with the number 3. So the 3 is multiplying, we're going to divide by the number 3, but if you divide on the left hand side of the equal sign, you divide on the right hand side of the equal sign. This simplifies the number 3. Now you have x alone on the left hand side of the equal sign, and on the right hand side you have the number -2/3. And that is a number. Don't use a calculator to find out what the decimal is. It's basically a number. That's one of the solutions. But don't forget, you have your factor number 2. So we're going to now take factor number 2, and we're going to take that factor alone, which is x minus 4. We're going to make it equal 0, and we're going to isolate x again. So we're going to leave it alone. So who's affecting x in this case is the number 4, and it's subtracting. So to eliminate it, we're going to add the number 4 on the left hand side of the equal sign. As a consequence, you're going to add the number 4 on the right hand side of the equal sign. These two forces simplify each other. On the left hand side of the equal sign, you have x, and on the right hand side you have 0 plus 4, which is equal to the number 4. And here you have your second solution. So the values of x that will make this expression on the left hand side of the equal sign equal to the number 0 is basically x equal to -2/3 and x equal to +4. So you have two possible solutions.